Nobody anticipated this type of upheaval, but now the internet is in disarray. Videos are leaking, and fans are in disbelief as rumors spread that Kirk, Frost, and Yonge, two of the biggest names in love and hip-hop, have been taken into custody following a violent argument that broke out on set. That's correct. What was allegedly just another ordinary shoot went awry and resulted in a full-fledged brawl that ended in handcuffs. Now that the disturbing video clip is going viral online, the entire reality, insiders claim that tensions have been building behind the scenes for weeks, but nobody anticipated this. According to people close to production, what began as a heated verbal altercation swiftly descended into violence, and within minutes, anarchy broke out. The TV industry is in meltdown mode. Fans are left wondering what caused this violent confrontation. Was it a personal betrayal, a business fallout, or something deeper and more profound? As they watch the cameras as they shout, shove security, scramble, and then hear sirens. Amidst a tense, overcast sky, cameras were rolling on what was supposed to be a typical day of filming for the most recent season of Love and Hip Hop. What does this mean for the show's future? Stay tuned because this is just the beginning, and the details will leave you shocked. Under the surface, an unsaid tension existed between Kirk, Frost, and young Chalk. They exchanged glances, curt nods, and hardly any words. Producers were yelling instructions, crews were setting up lights, and cast members were coming on time. According to those on the set who stayed long enough to read the room, there was clearly a problem. Production insiders said that Kirk and Jock had been avoiding one another for weeks behind the scenes. And whispers suggested that the fallout started over a botched business deal. Kirk had allegedly made some side moves involving a club promotion that Jock thought he was meant to be a part of, but Kirk allegedly abruptly stopped Jock from participating, and Jock wasn't going to let that go. Things had been building up for a while. Subtle jabs during group scenes, passive-aggressive remarks during confessional interviews, and today they finally reached a breaking point. Kirk and Jock were both intended to film a casual scene at a lounge-style set where the group was supposed to discuss new initiatives. When the director screamed action, it was like setting off a fuse. Jock arrived late, his look unreadable, and sat down immediately across from Kirk. Jock slammed his hand on the table and said, "Once again, I snapped," locking eyes with Kirk. The room went silent, and the crew members stopped. Kirk then leaned forward and murmured something too low for Mike to hear, but loud enough to set Jock off. Grains reverberated around the set as the person sitting next to Kirk reflexively sought for his arm in an attempt to comfort him. Kirk remained unmoved and repeated the statement, this time louder. "You're acting like you run things when you don't even own your name." Kurt shot back, "I just don't deal with clowns." Within seconds, chairs scraped the floor as the two men stood nose to nose in security. "Up slowly, you're really brave today, Perk," he added, his voice rising. "Very bravely for someone who has been avoiding me for 3 weeks." Hurried in, but too late, the jock shoved Kirk, causing him to stumble back a few steps. Kirk swiftly recovered and swung his fist forward, causing chaos to break out. The crew attempted to intercede, but the fight was fierce. Rashida screamed Kirk's name repeatedly, her voice almost drowned out by the chaos. Scott, who wasn't even on set at the time, was called right away, and producers were shouting into walkie-talkies. Even the other cast members were initially shocked and frozen, jumping in to try to separate the two. Scuffle soon turned into a full-fledged brawl, and to make matters worse, one of the camera crew continued to record, capturing every second of the altercation in crisp video. One producer even muttered, "This is going to get ugly," to disrupt the internet. However, things got out of control when Jock allegedly threw a punch that unintentionally struck a security guard, which is when the network realized what was going on. had crossed the line, and within 20 minutes, police arrived. They entered the building while Kirk and Jock were still being held in separate corners of the set, both of them looking angry and bruised. They took witness statements, requested video, and started to separate the parties. Kirk yelled something. Officers released Jock, saying, "You're done, bro. You're done in this industry." Jock, who was breathing heavily, didn't reply, but his look conveyed that this wasn't the end of it. Word spread on social media outside the set, and someone leaked the brief, 6-second video of Kirk swinging first went viral on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, shocking viewers who initially didn't think it was real. One person commented, but others claimed that the video was too unfiltered to be fake. And within an hour, it had received over 1 million views on blogs. One headline claimed that Kirk Frost and young Jock, two hip-hop and love icons, got into a fight. Commenters brutally debated who was responsible for the incident, who started it, and what it meant for the show's future after seeing a picture of both men being led away in handcuffs. Meanwhile, Rashida was seen outside the station looking obviously upset, and sources said she was shouting at producers, demanding answers, and threatening to, she allegedly said, "Not a damn war zone," and that she would leave the show if Kirk wasn't released right away. This was meant to be a business scenario. Kirk was seated in an interrogation room back inside. His face was strained and his knuckles were damaged. When the police questioned him to describe what had happened, he repeated that he felt frightened and that Jock had provoked him, and that he had acted in self-defense. However, given the video that showed the two men fighting, it appeared that Jock was the one who had done the action. All of this could have been handled off camera. Kirk remarked when asked why he was so afraid to confront me like a man these past several weeks while nursing a swollen eye and a busted lip. He chuckled bitterly when asked for his story. After being briefed, Mona Scott told the network in a private statement, "This is not what we represent. We want drama, yes, but not violence or arrests. Tell the crew to suspend all shooting continuously while the situation was assessed." But behind closed doors, there were rumors that she might use the footage to increase ratings. According to some crew members, she was already talking about how to spin the story for the most engagement, which is gold. One producer allegedly stated, "As long as someone files a lawsuit." As the mugshots of Kirk and Jock were being kept overnight, viewers started to wonder whether their favorite reality stars had finally crossed a limit they couldn't return. And as morning arrived, the streets outside the station were crowded with fans and paparazzi. Everyone was curious about what caused the altercation, who had thrown the first blow, and most importantly, if Kirk and Jock would actually suffer any repercussions, or if this was merely as Kirk was being prepared for release on bond. His phone buzzed with a message from a blocked number. The text said, "You think that was bad? Wait till you see what's coming next." This was just another episode in the crazy world of reality TV. As he sat silently in the back of the police station, his hands still aching, his head still reeling from the events of the day, his face went pale. And that's where part 1 ends. The message on Kirk's phone sent a shudder down his spine. He couldn't take his eyes off that mysterious text for the entire day. "You think that was bad? Wait till you see what's coming next." He was unable to identify the number. Was anonymously blocked, but the danger was obvious. Someone wasn't done, and Kirk didn't know who it was or what they were plotting. Meanwhile, across town, young Jock was sitting in the backseat of a black sub, and his manager was shoving him away. Leaving the station after he was eventually released on bail, his face was damaged, his jaw hurt, yet his phone kept vibrating and sending texts, all of them from reporters, fans, or individuals feigning concern, and the Jock disregarded the most of them. "You want to go home. His manager inquired gently, because the only thing he cared about now was the harm done to his career, reputation, and most importantly, pride. "No, take me to the studio. I have something to get off my chest," he said, shaking his head. By mid-morning, Kirk and Jock were trending on all social media platforms. The leaked film currently has over 5 million views, and the hashtag Kirk's Jock was the most popular on Twitter. Fans were split, with some supporting Jock and others blaming Kirk. Many were simply startled that things had escalated to that point, which nobody had anticipated. But was that a coincidence? In the editing bay of the Love and Hip Hop production studio, a low-level assistant named Trey had been surreptitiously viewing the raw footage as a longer video was about to be leaked. But this time it wasn't just fists being thrown back. Trey's job was to catalog and label scenes for the editors, but he happened to come across an uncut clip that hadn't been secured yet. Producers hesitated, and the camera angle revealed a private conversation between Kirk and a producer prior to the altercation. Kirk was not aware that the microphone was still hot in the film, and he could be heard saying, "I told Mona." The producer retorted, "You sure you want to go that route that will irritate Job? He's reckless, sloppy, and he thinks this show can't run without him. I ain't filming with Job anymore. Let him be mad. I have dirt on him that will him," Kirk retorted. In the realm of viral material, timing was everything. Trey sat motionless, his heart pounding, knowing that if he leaked this, he would lose his job, but also reveal a whole new level of drama. 3 hours later, the video was the video, which proved that Kirk had been preparing to sever his relationship with Jock before the incident. Also indicated that Kirk was sitting on some sort of hidden Twitter account. Online followers were furious, and there were a ton of speculations about what dirt Kirk had on Jock, and whether Kirk started the fight on this show is getting more bizarre every day. When the Jock viewed the studio clip, he almost knocked over his microphone in shock. "No, I'm not going to let this go," he murmured, calling his manager to get his lawyer on the line. The phone-in informed Mona that we must speak with Mona Scott. The network, under pressure, then set up an urgent meeting with Kirk and Jock separately. Her objective was to defuse the situation, determine whether filming could continue, and most importantly, figure out how to make this into Kirk arrived first, wearing glasses to conceal the swelling around his eye, and his face was icy. Mona greeted him with an embrace, but he didn't return it. "What's going on, Kirk?" she said. This was a ratings win without going against any legal boundaries. "I need to know what's this about you having dirt on Jock Kirk," she said gently. "You tell me," he said. "Why is footage leaking from your studio who's playing games?" "We're handling it internally," she said. Leaning in, I received receipts, text messages, and negotiations he made behind the scenes to get me off the program. He had been acting strangely, so Mona said that this was personal, and hours later, Jock had a private meeting with, in contrast to Kirk. Mona arrived boisterous, agitated, and prepared for a verbal altercation. This time, you allowed him to say all that nonsense without intervening, and he said, "You knew he was trying to play me." "Jock, I just want to get this fixed before the network shuts it off. I didn't know about the messages or that he was planning anything," Mona said, raising her hands. "No, we ain't fixing nothing until I get to tell my side." The next day, a new video appeared online this time, posted from Jock's own verified Instagram. It was a selfie video recorded in his studio. Let me be clear," he said. "I didn't initiate or desire the fight, but I'm not a punk, and I won't allow someone to disparage me without retaliating with a clap." He then abruptly stopped, saying, "Because Kirk wanted maybe it's time for me to share what I know about dirt." Fans went into a frenzy after reading that final paragraph. with thousands of comments clamoring for more information and hashtags. Jock was winning the public support battle for the first time in days when hashtags like #SpillFed and #ChicksRevenge started trending. Kirk, sensing the change, brought Rashida into his home studio. They hadn't spoken much since the arrest. "I need you to stand with me on this," Kirk said to her, her face still tense with disappointment. "Stand with you." She reiterated, "You nearly ruined your entire career for some trivial beef." If he had been attempting to get me fired, it wouldn't be pity. Rashida gave a headshake. "This needs to be fixed for us, not the cameras." The pressure outside continued to increase as Kirk and Rashida quarreled behind closed doors, and the network began Mona was attempting to balance the chaos with the prospect of extremely high ratings, while advertisers demanded answers and threatened to stop funding if violence continued to dominate headlines. However, just when it appeared that things couldn't get any messier, Kirk received another anonymous message on his phone that contained only a video file rather than text. "I don't care what the contract says. I'll find a way to cut Jocks out. He's dead weight," Kirk said as he opened it with shaking hands. The film showed him months previously in a private conversation with the unidentified woman. When Kirk returned to Jock's studio, he received a parcel with no return address, and his face became pale once more. Someone was sitting on a large vault of destructive content, and they were leaking it piece by piece. There was a letter inside a US disk that said, "Kirk betrayed others besides you." After plugging in the drive-in, Jock watched in disbelief as the video, which this time featured Kirk in as Part 2 comes to a close, Kirk and Jock realize they're not just fighting each other anymore. They're fighting someone in the shadows who wants them both to crash and burn. And the worst part is that they still don't know. This is when they met with a network ex who was pushing for Jock's scenes to be cut. Who it is, the suspense was nearly intolerable. And Kirk was pacing his living room while the video continued to play in the background, his voice resonating through the speakers like a ghost from the past, each sentence and word serving as a reminder that someone had been observing him, filming him, setting him up. And now that everyone was watching, his phone buzzed once more, alerting him that a new video had just been released. This time, it was about Rashida Kirk, and his eyes widened as he poked the screen. The video was blurry and distant, but it was clear that Rashida and the man were having a tearful chat. Kirk didn't recognize the man, but he reached out and touched her arm, soothing her as she sobbed. The caption said, "Is Rashida looking for solace from a stranger?" Kirk's face began to flush. He was aware that Rashida had been aloof lately, but this was either a genuine move or just another one in whatever perverse game was being played. Jock's heart was pounding as he browsed through folders marked with names, dates, and even episode titles, while he gazed blankly at the files on the US drive. Someone had saved years' worth of behind-the-scenes video, including producer notes, cast rumors, and secret recordings. Regarding Kirk, this was about the entire show. One file, Jock_confession room, caught his eye. Before he opened it, the screen displayed an old video of him sitting in the confessional chair and speaking to a producer. He recalled that day as the one when he said something in the video that he never imagined would be seen. "And I nearly quit the show after a heated argument with another cast member. This show isn't worth my sanity. If Kirk keeps making me angry, I'm going to lose it one day. And if I don't act shocked," the Jock sat back in shock. Out of context would make him appear to be the aggressor. It created a picture that someone could easily manipulate to ruin his reputation. And whoever leaked the fight footage obviously had no trouble publishing anything that suited their purposes. He was startled out of his reverie by a knock at the door. It was his lawyer. "We have a problem," she said right away. The network's lawyers are looking over all the footage to see if they can remove you two from the show. Jock stood up and said, "We can't do that because we are the show." But they are under pressure from advertisers to leave, and the board wants this mess cleaned up quickly. Meanwhile, Mona on a conference call with the network. Scott's voice was composed, but underneath she was furious because the mayhem had gotten out of control, and she didn't like that we could repair it. She urged that we present it as a redemption story in which Kirk and Jock work out their differences with their supporters. "Let me handle it my way," Mona responded. "Give me a week." The exec on the line wasn't sure that they had attacked each other on camera, which is more than just poor news and a problem. "I need you to find out who has the rest of the footage," Mona stated gently, "and if it's you, now's the time to come clean." After the call was over, Mona called Trey, the assistant editor who leaked the initial video. She wasn't positive it was him, but she had a strong feeling he was involved. Later that night, Kirk approached Rashida when Trey remained silent. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me," she yelled. "You think this is a game. Careers are on the line. You want to be next." Holding out his phone, he inquired, "What's this video going around?" She narrowed her eyes and looked at it. "You really believe I'm playing around behind your back?" After the fight, Kirk retorted, "I don't even know who's pulling this anymore. I don't know what to think anymore." The strings. Rashid sighed. "I went to that man because I needed someone to talk to who isn't in this toxic environment. You should have told me about plotting, as you did." Across town, Jock received an unexpected guest from his ex-girlfriend Carly, who had seen everything develop online and went to check on him. They were staring at each other, and the room was silent, full of years of unresolved tension. "Well," she answered quietly, "depends on what video you've seen today." She sat next to him and said, "Someone's trying to tear this whole show down. I believe I know who he pulled. This was provided to me anonymously out of the US drive, but only one person would know all of this information. That person was there from the start when Carly asked Jock, and her eyes opened." Stevie J thought about it, and Jock added that he had been absent from the concert, for when he vanished following that fallout with Mona, he was aware of all the details, the secrets, and the dirt. What if he was attempting to blow everything up? However, why Carly sought for revenge exposure? Perhaps both of them were back at Mama's office when she got an email. The subject line of an untraceable account read, "You thought you could play God with people's lives. Now watch it all fall apart." A video of her having a heated argument years ago was included. She can be heard asking, "Drama sells if they hit each other, so what?" On the clip with Kirk and another producer. We cut it off, add some sound effects, and Mona's heart fell as she saw the numbers increase, if the tape leaked. She grabbed up her phone and called Kirk, saying, "We need to meet." Kirk agreed, and they scheduled a meeting time of midnight in a private back room of a club where they used to film. But before the meeting, Kirk got another message, but this time it was different. It was a still photo from the club security camera that showed Kirk waiting by himself with a shadowy figure behind him. Kirk peered closely and realized it was a recognizable figure. Overly familiar, he called Jock right away. "We're not enemies, man," Kirk began. "We're being played." Jock paused, then replied, "I know." Suddenly, adversaries turned into allies since the person who had been observing them all along was the true threat, and they were prepared to come out of hiding when Jock showed up at the club. He had not been back here in months, not since that famous episode where Kirk called him out on live television, so tonight felt different, even though it wasn't about ratings or stage drama. He first stood by the bar, looking around the dimly lit room, feeling uneasy in every shadow. 5 minutes later, Kirk entered the room, and the two of them looked around as if someone might leap out. They exchanged a quick nod, no words, just a silent understanding that everything had changed. And then they headed to the rear room, where Mona was already waiting. "I've been doing damage management all day, and if this problem gets worse, the network won't just dismiss you. They'll blacklist you," Kirk leaned. She didn't greet them, didn't smile, simply glanced up, and went right to the point that you two are now officially liabilities. Mona was doubtful until Jock moved up and put the US drive on the table between them. "Watch this," he said simply. Arms crossed against the wall, "You think we don't know that someone is trying to ruin all of us? This isn't just about the fight anymore." When she connected it into her laptop, her countenance went from shock and confusion to a flash of panic as she flipped through folders containing unpublished scandals, confessional videos, unseen footage, and producer directives to provoke specific cast members. When she asked Jackie and Kirk where they got it, Kirk said, "Someone sent it to him anonymously, but we think it's Stevie J." Mama's face went cold. Years of secrets were enough to bring down the entire franchise. Stevie wouldn't dare. Jock shook his head, saying that he had been quiet for far too long, and that he had left for a reason. Perhaps he had been gathering all of stuff while we were out here battling for scraps earlier. Another tape had been leaked, in which Mona herself instructed a producer to construct a fictitious arrest scene involving Kirk and Jop in order to increase ratings. She could respond when her phone buzzed, so she picked it up and became pale. "Get the cuffs, get the drama," her voice put on the video, make it the story was getting out of hand, and Mona slammed her laptop shut. "We need to get ahead of this and do a press interview." The leak had hit a major gossip block, and the comment section was already exploding. Fans were accusing Kirk and his phone of staging the fight and manipulating the audience. "Release something," but the Jock interrupted. "No, not this time. Every time we tell a lie to hide another lie, we make things worse. We must track down the person responsible and stop them before they reveal something we can't remove." Kirk nodded in agreement, saying they're coming after us. "We find Stevie, and if he is responsible, we put an end to everything tonight." Meanwhile, somewhere in the city, a person is sitting in a dark room. The fight started, then Rashida, and now you are the next mother, putting the weight of everything on her. The mystery sender, surrounded solely by the glow of several screens, watched the mayhem play out online, each notification serving as a sign that their strategy was succeeding. They clicked on another video file, this one named Jockirk's secret meeting, and the footage captured the exact exchange that was taking place. The figure grinned as the video was captured at the club using a covered camera placed in the room. "After all these years, what do you want?" Benzino leaned back with his arms crossed and took revenge, but not just for me, but also for everyone you left behind. You believe you're the untouchables are the franchise's kings, but you're just the newest clowns in an endless circus. You nearly destroyed our lives by leaking our private conversations, setting us up, and turning everyone against us. Against us, Benzino arched an eyebrow and nearly tapped the laptop's key before the screens throughout the warehouse sprang to life, displaying video of Kirk and Rashida bickering about cheating suspicions, and a Jock yelling at his ex-girlfriend Mona planning cast firings behind them. Benzino remarked, "I've got hundreds of hours and the press is hungry," and Kurt clenched his fists. "Closed doors, this is just a preview." "What's your price, Benzino?" Zeno's smirk didn't go away as he said, "I don't want money. I want exposure. I want the world to see the truth. I want to watch everything you built burn." Jock stepped closer. "And you think people will believe a disgraced ex-gas member over us?" "I don't need to persuade anyone. The chaos speaks for itself." Just then, Mona's voice came through a hidden speaker, bluffing, and she claimed that she had hacked into the feed using her phone. "I tracked down the server he was using. Already, look online. Your fans have turned into sponsors, and the network is backing out. Has the film? Sure, but it's all in one place. And I just set off a purge process that will erase all the files on that drive permanently in 60 seconds, unless you stop it. Benzino's eyes opened, and he hurried to the laptop and began typing quickly, while Kirk and Jock moved. "It's over," Kirk remarked. "You had your moment, now it's done." However, Zeno wasn't prepared to give up, so he took a little revolver from under the table and pointed. "I lost everything because of you guys. My name, my brand, my family." But Kirk remained composed, and this won't bring any of that. The air froze, and the Jock raised his hands, saying, "You really are going to shoot us on camera?" Benzino's palm trembled. Zeno gazed at the countdown on the screens with 10 seconds remaining, then at Kirk, before dropping the gun and sagging into the chair as Mona started the feed one last time. "Do it," Zeno said. He muttered, the files disappeared, the screens turned black, and sirens sounded outside. Mona had alerted the authorities, and the police were just minutes away. Benzino didn't fight back. He just sat there. Kirk and Jock hurried outside as the early morning sun cast long shadows behind them, and the building broke as officers surged in. "We survived," Jock murmured, and Kirk nodded hardly. But the battle wasn't finished because the primary files were deleted, but pieces of the films persisted on fan sites, gossip blogs, and dubious forums. Their reputations were still in doubt, and it would take months or even years to repair the harm. Mona set up a private interview with a big news organization. Kirk talked candidly about the strain of celebrity, the manipulation by producers, and how they had lost themselves chasing ratings in an outlet where they gave their side of the story. The Jock acknowledged his apologies for losing his anger and his lack of perspective on the wider picture. Fans were divided after the interview went viral. Some praised their candor, while others accused them of fabricating the story. Nevertheless, it was evident that they weren't going down without a fight, and in the weeks that followed, Mona debuted a new digital series called Reality Unfiltered, which gave cast members a stage on which to share their genuine, undated stories about Kirk and Jock, became regulars, and opened up in ways the public had never seen before. The response was tremendous, and for the first time in years, fans viewed them as real people rather than fictional characters. Behind the scenes, Menino was charged with a number of crimes, including cybercrime and illegal blackmail. Yet despite his claims that he acted alone, there were whispers that others were involved. Some conjecture that resentful former cast members, former producers, and even competitor networks had supported him. However, nothing was confirmed, and the mystery remained mostly unanswered, adding another layer of complexity. Adding to the already crazy story, Kirk and Jock took a hiatus from filming to work on family healing and reconstruction. Kirk spent time with Rashida, going to therapy and attempting to mend what was left of their relationship, while Jock reconnected with his children and promised to be more present for both of them. Remained mostly off social media to let the situation to settle, and gradually the issue stopped making headlines, but the experience transformed them. They stopped being fixated on fame and began discussing creating original, genuine material for a project. Mona unexpectedly backed the notion of giving back to the society rather than ripping it apart. Perhaps she was feeling guilty, or perhaps she saw a new business opportunity. But either way, they started preparing something fresh and sincere. However, occasionally Kirk would receive a communication from someone, an emoji or a hazy screenshot, with no words or unknown number. Serves as a reminder that the past never truly goes away, and that people continue to watch and wait. But this time Kirk wasn't scared because he and Jock had experienced the worst, lost everything, and remained intact, regardless of what happened next. Another scandal, another leak, etc. treachery, they were prepared to narrate their own tale in their own manner. And this time they were in charge. And now what had begun as a straightforward backstage Kirk Frost and Young Jay's argument turned into one of the most startling and chaotic controversies in reality TV history. Observed in everything from stolen footage and viral clashes to covert betrayals, at a strange this story contained a revenge plot, drama, emotion, and a truth that no one noticed. Everything played out, including the arrest, the confession, and the altercation with Benzino. Seemed like a film, but for Kirk and Jock, this was their actual situation. And despite the fact that they survived the storm, albeit the wounds it caused might never completely heal. The true question is, did Kirk and Jock actually turn around? Or was this simply another shrewd maneuver in the reality tea game? Or were they the targets of deceit and manipulation? Benzino was involved in the mayhem the entire time. Was he a villain or merely, we want to hear from another victim of a poisonous system based on fame and ratings? Do you believe that Kirk and Jack should be given another chance on reality TV? Ultimately alter the way it manages drama and real-life situations? Or is this simply the way things are? Share your ideas in the "We're reading all of the comments below. So please remember to like this video if the twists caught you off guard. Click the subscribe button to receive more thrilling updates, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and the actual scoop on your favorite celebrities. Nothing stays buried in the realm of reality TV, so what comes next will leave you stunned. Long, and the next controversy is always only a single camera angle away, so keep an eye out. Curious and, as usual, untidy.